Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. This is Ride or Die episode 17. PJ Harvey, part 2.
Hello and welcome to I Caught It on Audio. Today we are continuing our Ride or Die series where we pick a band and do a deep dive into their complete discography. This is part 2 of 4 for PJ Harvey, and we're going to be covering the albums Dance Hall at Louse Point, Is This Desire, and Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea.
Along with some B-sides and such, right?
Oh yeah, there's definitely a good portion of B-sides in this one too. I took the B-sides from the B-sides demos and Rarities album and put them in where they would have been recorded. So we've got some of that too. Our first album, Dance Hall at Louse Point, is actually a collaboration album with John Parrish. It's not a PJ Harvey exclusive album. And it was released in September of 96 on Island Records. Parrish, Harvey, and someone named Mick Harvey produced this one. So definitely didn't have any outside voices on it as far as that's concerned. What do you guys think of this one? Dan, why don't you start?
Yeah, this one was I believe it was being sort of intentionally dissonant and non-commercial.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
It seems like they wanted to try some stuff. I know that John Parrish has collaborated. They were in a band, early in their careers together, and I think he's played on a bunch of her albums. So he wrote from what I gather, he wrote the music, and then she wrote lyrics and the vocal melodies. And for me, it's a bit hit or miss. I think some of these songs that didn't hit right away might grow on me, but they make an effort to sort of hold you at arm's length, I think. I thought there were a few songs, the good songs I thought were quite good. I liked, let's see, which ones did I mark as being highlights? Let's see, I liked Rope Bridge Crossing, Civil War Correspondent, Gila, and then there was a really interesting cover of Is That All There Is, which sounds like it was written for PJ Harvey.
Absolutely.
Back in the 60s or whenever it was written by Lieber and Stoller. So I thought this one was interesting because it did some weird chord progressions and sort of tried to explore weird things. And she did some very strange and sort of confrontational vocal things. And I don't know if it all worked for me, but I suspect that the ones that I quite liked, and the other ones may or may not grow on me given enough time. But I thought it was interesting, sort of less consistent than her usual stuff. But yeah, what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I agree. It was a bit up and down, a hit or miss. I also really liked Gila, and the B-side, Who Will Love Me Now, which was recorded in the same sessions as this, I thought was probably the best track from this session. It just has this haunting vocal and this really cool story.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of Kate Bush. Like it kind of felt a little bit like a Kate Bush song without being Kate Bush.
Yeah, I thought of Clannad, that Irish sort of folk band. But I agree, it was very, very striking. Very different from her usual thing.
Definitely had an Irish feel to it, which was awesome. I loved it. That one came on, and I listened to it 5 times in a row the first time because I just wanted to make sure I was listening. I was getting everything from it because there was so much in it. I did not like City of No Sun. I thought PJ Harvey is an incredible vocalist. Her range is phenomenal, and the diversity of her singing is outstanding. But she does this high-pitched screeching sometimes. And it's showcased in that song, and I cannot stand it. It's the only thing vocally that she does that will get me to just skip to the next song. And it was abusive in that song. So that one actually got a thumbs down, which is the first time I've thumbs down any PJ Harvey songs. Yeah, Zach, what did you think of this one?
I'm definitely in the same boat as you guys. I really do like the experimental nature of it. Mm-hmm. I thought it started really good. I thought the instrumental "Girl" at the beginning was a nice kind of a lighthearted, different way to start out an album for her. And then it just goes right into Rope Bridge Crossing, which I thought was just amazing, phenomenal. And when I heard that song, I was like, yes, I cannot wait for the rest of the album. And then it just kind of petered out and fizzled out and went in really strange directions. And I'm not saying it's bad. It didn't always work for me. There were some highs and some lows. And like you guys said, Gila, I thought was really cool. It had that kind of bluesy stuff going on. It actually, like at the beginning of the song, it kind of, I was like, is this a White Stripes song? You know?
Yeah.
And, but it settled into the kind of this nice groove. And yeah, the cover, Is That All There Is? Those were the highs for me. I think if I had gotten exposed to this and listened to this back in 1996, I might have really responded to it and really, really enjoyed it a lot more.
Absolutely.
I just think at this time period, and especially with doing this run through, there was this expectation of something a little bit different, and not that this is bad, but it's like you guys said, it's probably going to take a little while for me to fully ingest it, and I don't think the 2 weeks that we were listening through all this stuff is quite enough time to really get into it. So I'm looking forward to down the road, like in a couple years, going, hey, I want to put on that experimental PJ Harvey and John Parrish album and see what comes out of it, and see how different it makes me feel. But yeah, like you guys, I really love that B-side, the Who Will Love Me Now. Just a very, very different stylistically.
It was like a folktale. It was, and it's something that I mean, she has her sort of creepy folktale songs like on To Bring You My Love, but this felt like a different sort of thing. And I thought it was really cool. You mentioned that song, you guys both did, but I also thought Losing Ground and Why'd You Go to Cleveland were really good. These were all very different sounding B-sides.
Why'd You Go to Cleveland sounded like it was her trying to do an American pop rock singer's song. I didn't dislike it at all. It just felt like very deliberate. I'm going to write an American rock song right now.
She's a very English person, and I guess you're right. It is interesting. I liked it. And then Losing Ground was the first time that I thought, is this an industrial song?
Yeah.
From PJ Harvey. It really felt like she had been listening to Nine Inch Nails, or I don't know how that could have been something else, but that's I thought they were all very different sounding and all very good. I kind of agree that there was more consistency in the B-sides than there was. I think that was the point. You mentioned City of No Sun. Yeah, it was a real shocker when she goes high at the end there. And I think that it doesn't quite work for me either. I didn't give the old thumbs down, but I was like, this is strange, and I'm not sure if I like it. I might get used to it, but I don't know. I do think she goes high later on.
Well, she's not singing any higher than she does in like Will You Love Me Now. It's the same register. It's the shrieking part of it that just throws me off, and I can't handle it.
Yeah, I felt it was maybe just too high in the mix. It was too piercing. But yeah, it's definitely like a full voiced, high pitched yowl. That didn't work for me on that song, but I do think she does go up there later on, and it works better. So maybe this was a time to experiment with that stuff. I'm also curious to see the next. She has another album with John Parrish coming up in a later episode, so I'm curious to see what they do with that. Whether they refine what they were doing here, or they go in a different direction.
Right. All right, so you get one song from this album. What do you take? And I'll include the B-sides.
Well, if I can't include the B-sides, it's Gila. I think it's still Gila, but Who Will Love Me Now is a really interesting song that I immediately found compelling.
Yeah.
So those are the two highlights
exact
for me.
Same thing for me. I thought Gila was great. I loved the bass line in it and the slide guitar. Was it slide guitar in that one? I don't remember. But it was like a distorted slide guitar, or maybe she had I don't know what they're called, but yeah. How about you, Zach?
I would go with Rope Bridge Crossing. I really, really liked that one.
All right. Well, after this, we've got a pure PJ Harvey album again. Is This Desire came out in 98. We've got Flood as the primary producer on it. Marius DeVries and Head are also credited, along with PJ Harvey. This one came out about 2 years later. Zach, why don't you start on this one?
So this was the follow-up to Bring You My Love, and of course it's going to be like what we've seen in lots of the other series, Ride or Dies, where you've got that big, grandiose, like the one album that really hits hard, and then the next one does a different thing, and people aren't necessarily ready for it or prepared, or they basically want the previous album part 2,
Right.
And in this case, I wouldn't go so far as saying it was a letdown album. I went out and bought it practically first day and listened to it a lot, but I don't, it clearly does not do the same things as to bring You My Love, which is good. I think she's kind of evolving and expanding. And I love the opener of Angeline. That is definitely a real high point, I think, from the album for me. I, of course, was really familiar with The Perfect Day, Elise, because that was the poppy single that was all over the place. And it's not a bad song. But I think what's cool about this album is it's much more intimate. It's got some kind of strangely trip hoppy electronic things going on like The Wind, No Girl So Sweet. Like just like it's got sort of an electronic flavor, but it's kind of, I don't know, it felt kind of dated to me. But then you've got more of like a trip hoppy type thing going on, and like My Beautiful Leah with that really big rumbly fuzzy bass thing going on. And I know overall, I really like it. I like the kind of roller coaster ride of what happens. I'm really curious about the 2 songs in the middle there, Catherine and Electric Light. Dan, what are your thoughts? Before you expound on the full album, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that particular run of songs? Because the thing that kept happening is, like, as I was listening to it in the car or whatever, those songs are so much like lower, volume wise, mix wise, that I was like, did the album go out? Like, what's going on? Why did it,
Yeah. My notes for those 2 songs, for Catherine, I noted that I liked her sort of triplet rhythm delivery on the vocals. It was sort of hypnotic. And then I noted that the music was very muted. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. It felt like they had sort of wiped the top end off, and it was all sort of burbling in the background quietly.
Yeah.
And then I just, the only note I had for Electric Light, which was not, I gave every song on this album a thumbs up because I liked them all.
Mm-hmm.
But all I had was that it was creepy and somber and quiet for Electric Light. And that was not one of my highlighted songs of I sort of put an asterisk by the ones that I thought stood out a bit. And that was not one that stood out for me. It felt fine, just sort of very sort of drawn in, just like Catherine kind of did as well.
So yeah, I think maybe that, clearly it was intentional, because it's not like you just, have an album full of really clear and mixed, excessively mixed songs, and then all of a sudden ones that feel almost like demo quality or whatever. But I think that adds to the sort of the structure of the album. You kind of like, you go up for a little while at the beginning, and then you kind of come down sort of in a trough in the middle there, and then kind of evens out, towards the end. So, those are my thoughts. What do you think?
I like this album. You're right. I don't think it's as good as the one that preceded it. My highlight songs that I have marked, I mean, like I said, I like them all, but my highlights are My Beautiful Leah, Catherine, The Garden, Joy, The River, and Is This Desire. This one did felt mostly pulled back, although there was a lot more trip hop, electronica, a little industrial mixed in there. Yeah. A lot more synthetic sounds.
Right.
Yeah, I actually thought that what's the name of that song? Oh, My Beautiful Leah. That sounded to me like it could have come off of the Nine Inch Nails album With Teeth. It just had that sort of feel to it. So I noticed that in particular. But yeah, I would say that this is a step down. But that said, I liked every song on there. I had no like, oh, that song's not good. You were absolutely right that the trip hop electronica sounds on a couple of songs, like The Wind was the other one. I think maybe No Girl So Sweet. They definitely feel a little bit dated in a way that her music usually doesn't. But I also really liked the closer, Is This Desire. I found it was sort of like a more restrained version of her early stuff. It felt the same, but she really sort of drew back on the vocals and the delivery. So I thought this was overall a very good album, but definitely a step down from her best.
Yeah. Dave, what are your thoughts?
Right. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I really liked the songs, The Garden and The River. I thought had an amazing piano part, and the horns were really neat, and I really liked the bass line in that one. And I thought The Bay was a great B-side track in this one. But yeah, definitely had a different feel than the previous album. And yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else on this one?
No. What about the B-sides? Oh, did you have something?
Yeah, the B-sides. I like The Bay was one of the B-sides. I really like that one. And the faster. What's this? The faster I breathe.
The further I go. Yeah, that was a cool one.
That one was really cool. And then, I mean, the instrumental. I liked all the instrumental ones. I like when people do instrumental tracks. I always think they can be neat. But yeah, nothing. There wasn't a ton that stood out on this one, unfortunately. I thumbs up 4 or 5 tracks.
Yeah, there were a ton of B-sides on this one, like better part of 10, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's because it had a lot of singles on it, didn't it? No, it just had two singles.
Yeah.
Perfect Day Elise, I think, had a ton. Yeah, because there was UK. There were 3 different UK releases.
Yeah,
which all had different singles.
A bunch of songs, and then chose the ones she wanted on the album, which were clearly pointing in one direction. I thought, the guitar noodles essentially is what the 3 instrumentals are to me. They were okay. The only one that really interested me was the number 3, because there's a little more to it. It actually changed a little bit. My actual 2 highlights, although I liked, again, I gave the thumbs up to pretty much all the songs except for I think a couple of the instrumentals, because they just weren't enough for me to be like, well, I'd love to hear that again. The ones I highlighted were Sweeter Than Anything.
Okay.
And I really liked Nina and Ecstasy too. It felt like a lullaby, almost like it was coming out of a music box. I thought that one was really cool. Something different again. But I would say I have nothing really negative to say about any of the albums or B-sides. Just the highs aren't quite as high as she's hit in the past.
Right. So if you had to pick one track from Is This Desire and then maybe include the B-sides, what would you pick?
Angeline for me.
I think I liked My Beautiful Leah. But also I really liked The River. Those are my 2 highlights. I'd probably go with The River, but
yeah, it's The River for me. I thought it was a neat one. All right. So that was 2 years later. We've got the release of Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea. We've got 3 singles on this one. Good Fortune, A Place Called Home, and Is This Love? We've got Rob Ellis and Mick Harvey, along with PJ Harvey, producing on this one. Zach, why don't you tell us what you thought of this one?
I listened to this a lot when it first came out, and then not at all for a long time. And listening back to it this time around, I had forgotten really how good this album is. It's more of a straightforward rock album than the previous ones kind of flirting with the electronic, flirting with the trip hop, or different synthetic instrument type of stylings. And so this one is more just straightforward, and I think it's maybe a little bit better for it. I'm not saying that. I mean, you guys know me. I love electronic music and synthetic sounds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think she's best when she's kind of just using the instruments to, fill out the song, that fill out and kind of back up her voice, doing her voice things. Big Exit, I thought was another good opener. I think she's always been really strong at starting out an album with something that sets the stage for what's coming. And there aren't that many that I didn't thumbs up or like on this album. I think I thought it was interesting how she had Tom York guesting on a couple tracks.
Oh, it's so good.
And there are some interesting things like the song "You Said Something." And my notes say it's kind of like a carnival guitar, because it's just the way that the guitar phrase went. It just kind of reminded me of like a carnival or something, even though it's not really that sort of jovial type of song, but. I like the atmosphericness of Horses in My Dreams. So yeah, overall,
that one fell a little flat for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't quite get into it. I didn't dislike it, but it didn't get a thumbs up. It's one of the few that didn't get a thumbs up on this one.
Yeah. I thought this was a strong album. It was a good, sort of, to the more intimacy of the previous album. This one kind of brings it back around to the a little bit more in your faceness of this is why can't I remember
Is This Desire?
Is this bringing you my love? No, to bring my love. Yeah.
Oh yes.
So her album titles are so interesting. It's hard to remember which one, how they all fit together.
Yeah.
So Dan, what do you got on this one?
Well, when this one started out, my overall notes for this album read more accessible, less dark, very listenable. And there's a few wrinkles, like there's a few songs with 6/4. There's even, I think, what's the song? One Line is in 7/4. So there's a few little wrinkles of not being really straightforward. But I was a little underwhelmed. I do agree that Big Exit's very good. But then the next few songs sort of underwhelmed me, and I was like, oh, is this going to be my least favorite one? But I think the album really picks up in the second half, starting with when Tom York starts getting involved. And he's more and more involved as it progresses. Like he's in the background of One Line, you can hear him, but you have to almost know that he's there. And then when you know he's there, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that definitely sounds like him. And then he's much more present in Beautiful Feeling, which sounds like it could be either a Tom York or Radiohead outtake. And then even more so with The Mess We're In, which was my favorite of the Tom York collaborations. I really liked her backup vocals to it because he kind of takes the lead. And I just really liked the way they did the echoing thing and kind of 2/3 of the way through the song where he's singing and she's speaking and she's slowly working her way further and further ahead of what he's saying. And then they just sort of meet on the last line. That one really struck me. And that's around the time the album starts really getting going. I gave a thumbs up to every song on here because I didn't dislike any of them. But Zach, you mentioned You Said Something had a carnival guitar. Did it make you think of any particular album or song? Did you guys have any thoughts on You Said Something specifically?
No, I don't think so. It felt very carnival-y to me. I don't know really any other way to explain it.
Dave, did it remind you of anything particular?
Nothing in particular. No. Why? Is there something you had in mind?
Yeah. Well, something popped into my head the first time I heard it. It has almost the same chord progression as Mother Earth is a Vicious Crowd off Mental Jewelry. And so once I heard that, I kept hearing Ed Kowalczyk in the back of my head singing over this song. But anyway, I really like the song because I really love that album and that song. So that's not a negative, but I thought her vocals were really great on that one too. I didn't love the two songs I liked the least, I would say, although I still give them a thumbs up because I just found it very listenable. I was like, oh, this is good at worst. We Float, the final one, it was okay. It sounded very electro pop to me. There were a lot of more jangly songs on this album too, especially in the first half. Um, and the one that was really jangly that I thought wasn't bad was A Place Called Home. It wasn't bad, but it had a very like year 2000 sound to it. It sounded very dated to me in a way that most of her music doesn't. Overall, I thought this was very good and very sort of easy listening for PJ Harvey, while again not quite reaching her highest heights. But I can see why this one would be very popular and a lot of people would enjoy it. I can also see why people might think that she was playing it safe. I don't think that's entirely fair to say that, but overall, I thought it was very good. Dave, what was your take on this one?
I definitely don't think she was playing it safe. It's maybe safer than she has been previously. Now that she's found her sound and her voice.
Yeah, safe for PJ Harvey, not playing it safe like in the relative world of pop music.
Right. But I thought this was phenomenal. This might be my favorite album yet. And that's saying something because I loved that one album we can't seem to think of the title to.
To Bring You My Love.
Yeah. The only songs I didn't thumbs up are, like I said, Horses in My Dreams. And again, it's not that I dislike the song. It just didn't quite all come together for me. Kamikaze, again, we had the screeching vocals in there. It was just a bit too much. I was about to thumb it up, and then that came in, and I just couldn't quite do it. But other than that, it's a real good song. And one line just didn't quite do anything for me. But man, the Tom York stuff is phenomenal. I think that's an incredible collaboration. And I hope that they do more in the future. We've got 2 decades of stuff to go through still, so hopefully he pops in here and there. This Mess We're In is one of my all-time favorite PJ Harvey songs. It's one that I had known from before we started doing this, and I think it's just outstanding. Big Exit is a really good one. I thought This Is Love was phenomenal also.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's just so good.
She has that sort of swagger sometimes when she sings, and that's one that I really noticed it on, which I think is great.
The first 2 albums she had just felt like she was real angry and wanted revenge or wanted to call some shit out. And I totally get that, especially being a woman trying to prove yourself in music in the early 90s. That can't have been easy. And then she kind of found her sound in the next album. And we kind of followed that along the last few albums. And I just felt that like she was in a good place and was writing an album where she was actually happy almost, which you don't get a lot of from musicians.
This was much more positive than any of the ones that came before, I would say. I think you're right.
And maybe that made it feel like it was safe. And like that whole aspect, it wasn't aggressive or anything like that. So that maybe that's where that feeling is coming from. But it just had a good vibe to it. And I really, really liked this one. Like if I had to pick one, and we'll get into this in a little bit. This is my one album I think I pick so far. I even liked most of the B-sides. Wicked Tongue was good. Memphis was really good. 30 was really good. And the others were all good as well. But man, I just enjoyed the shit out of this album.
Yeah, my favorite B-side was 66 Promises. But I agree. I think, let me just double check. Yeah, every one of the B-sides got a thumbs up from me. What was your take on those B-sides, Zach?
Yeah, I liked Memphis and 66 Promises the most, and the others were good too. I think it's worth noting that John Parrish was not involved on this album at all.
Interesting.
And so this was the first kind of departure where she worked with different collaborative forces. I think that it shows that she's able to kind of chameleon her sound and her style with other people and still come up with really great songs.
All right. Anything else for this album?
Well, what's your favorite song, Dave, on this album?
Yes, it's obviously This Mess We're In. That's
Mhm.
probably top 3 PJ Harvey songs of all time.
Same for me.
I think that's my favorite as well. I really like This Is Love as well. And for me, Dave, you mentioned Kamikaze lost you on the high vocals. I thought that was her using those high vocals effectively. Like that, definitely better than the previous time we heard it. But that's a taste thing. If you don't like it, you don't like it.
I really wanted to because there's so much cool stuff in the song.
Yeah.
But man, it just bugged me too much when she hits those screeching high notes.
Yeah. And then I'll give one last little candidate for best song as a B-side, which is 66 Promises, like I mentioned. I just love it when it kind of explodes and the drums come in at the end. I think it's a really cool building song, and it has that sort of that really powerful PJ Harvey vocal that I really like. Overall, this was very good, but for me, I would say that it isn't as good as To Bring You My Love yet for me. But very good.
Yeah, I feel like I might have it right up there with that one. But all right, so anything else?
Which album would you take with you if you could only take one? How about that?
Yep, of these 3, I choose Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea, without a doubt.
Yep, same for me.
I think I would. I do really like Is This Desire, but I think the highs are higher with Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea. Yeah. So I think we all agree.
Are you ride or die at this point?
I am, for sure.
I am still
coming off of this one, man. I sure am. I wish I would have gotten into PJ Harvey in the 90s and then had this as early 2000s springboard into what's coming next. I feel like I missed out on an incredible 20 years of music that I am just now getting into.
Well, this is the happy result of this series. So sometimes we're like, nope, it's a real rough patch after we stopped listening, and then sometimes we're like with the Toadies, we were like, dang it, why did I just buy this album in 98? You idiot. Yeah. Why didn't you buy it? Speaking of what's next, we're going to do part 3. Is that going to be another handful of albums?
Yes. Next, we've got part 3 out of, like I said at the beginning, 4-part series. We'll be doing Her, White Chalk, and A Woman and a Man Walk By.
That last one's the John Parrish one, isn't it?
That is another collab with John Parrish.
Yeah.
You got it.
So we'll see how it compares.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how, she'll have had 4 of her own albums in between, see how the collaboration changes. So if you're a fan of PJ Harvey, let us know in the comments. Tell us what your favorite albums of these 3 and maybe your favorite tracks are. Do the algorithm things and like and subscribe if that's a thing you can do. If you want more content like this, you can find everything we've done at 64tacos.com. And if you really liked it, go to buymeacoffee.com/64tacos and you can buy us a taco. Thanks for listening.
I caught it on audio.
Dave's thoughts are his internet is still not working properly.
Okay, but we can just pick up from where you said, Dave. What are your thoughts, and we'll be good. His internet's been resetting. Maybe he told you this already, but
yes,
they had Comcast come out and
yep.
Okay, so we just finished up our 2 takes on it, and then Zach's going to throw to you for this. Okay.
Your whole recording? Okay.
Yeah, I agree. This one was a bit, it was definitely a departure from where she was with the previous album. And I don't know, I did like songs like The Garden and The River. I thought The River was really neat with the piano and the horns, and the bass line was really good on that one. I liked The Garden.
Favor.
Oh no.
What?
Favor.
Do you not hear me?
Oh no!
Dave, your internet goes out again.
I can hear you.
You better reset that modem.
This is going to be the most fractured.
Yeah, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck. I mean, we may have to just delay if he's gonna keep dropping out.
Oh, he could still hear us. Shit.
Oh, can he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, stop saying mean things about Dave. Stop telling the truth about Dave.
Dave, continue.
What the hell?
Yeah.
All right, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna go now. Ron, is this desire, right?
Yes.